right now we're wondering what happens with the Dallas Cowboys in January. What has happened to the Dallas Cowboys this entire offseason? Do we overpay Dak Prescott because that's what we'll be looking at? Or do you lose him? You know Mike McCarthy is not going to be back as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys next year because they're not going to the NFC Championship. They're probably not going to win the NFC East. There's going to be a regression because you haven't done anything.
You always seem to win a lot of games. You average about 13 wins a season. But the problem is, when the playoffs show up, the star gets very dull on the stars of the Dallas Cowboys.
Are you really America's team if you haven't been to the Super Bowl in over 20 years? The once great dynasty of the 90s is now a stumbling story of playoff fiascos, finding new ways to lose every year rather than win them. Jerry Jones has proclaimed that his team is all in this year.
With looking ahead at our key contracts that we'd like to address, we'll be all in.
But even the most optimistic Cowboys fans have got to be rolling their eyes at that.
Got another Romo on our hands. Choke like I'm
disappointed.
We need another quarterback, another coach, everything. It don't matter to me. It don't matter.
The quarterback can't win on the big stage. Everyone knows the coach will be out the door before too long. And an aging Ezekiel Elliott was the best answer to the running back question. And on top of all of that, there is a heaping amount of eye-watering contracts on the horizon.
We've seen Trevor Lawrence get paid. We've seen Justin Jefferson get paid. So the price tag keeps going up as we see inaction from the Cowboys. So I don't know when this will get done, how many contracts. I don't see how they can sign all three guys.
And it's safe to say that recently, in at least the 2000s and even 2010s and now the 2020s, the Cowboys are completely clueless right now. And in today's video, we're gonna go over the story of why the Dallas Cowboys are so good at being bad. Now, for beginners, the America's Team nickname was assigned by Bob Ryan, the man responsible for producing the Dallas Cowboys season highlight reel in 1978. The Cowboys had been to the playoffs in 11 of the last 12 seasons, featuring in 5 Super Bowls and winning 2 of them. As a result, they were an immensely popular team, helped out by the fact that they had Hall of Fame quarterback Roger Staubach in the backfield. And at the time, Bob Ryan noticed an impressive showing of Cowboys fans on the street and at the team's away games, inspiring him to name the season highlight reel America's Team. And I mean, since then, it's fair to say that name stuck at the time and place. Look, the sheer presence of all these fans meant the nickname was warranted, which was still true 2 decades later when the Cowboys won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years between 1992 and 1995. At the time being, it was a remarkable few decades for the fans of America's Team, watching 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks in Staubach and then Troy Aikman deliver them 5 Super Bowls, which is still tied for the second most for any franchise. There was little to no doubt that they were America's team at the time being, but it seems now that that glorious accolade has now become more of an anchor and just kind of the hype that they have to live up to and haven't lived up to for the past couple of years. As the Aikman era fizzled out at the turn of the century, the 2000s have been far less kind to the golden boys of football. Instead of another impressive dynasty, the Cowboys have become renowned for becoming chokers and perpetual losers in the playoffs. Since their last Super Bowl appearance in the 1995 season, they have only enjoyed 3 consecutive playoff seasons once, and that was over the last 3 years. Aside from that, it has been a story of false hope and playoff heartbreak. And look, the sheer pressure of having to live up to that name of being America's team has shown over and over again countless times. And none of this helps too when you have an aging owner in Jerry Jones trying to recapture that magic of the 90s and it just never happening. Tony Romo looked like he was the potential savior in 2006 and the man who could pick up where Troy Aikman left off. However, his botched field goal hold in the dying stages of a wild card round clash against the Seattle Seahawks would set the tone for what would instead be a career that left a lot to be desired. I remember watching that game, and as the Seahawks won that game by 21 points to 20, it gave the Cowboys fans their first dose of heartbreak, as well as producing the iconic image that would end up redefining Romo's career in Dallas. 1 year later, a 13-3 Dallas side faced another wildcard round game, this time against the Giants, who they had already beaten twice that year. The Cowboys came in as 7-point favorites to win that game, only to then go on and lose by 21 points to 17. In 2009, Brett Favre's Vikings hammered Dallas's league-leading defense by 34 points to 3, continuing continuing the emerging trend of playoff disappointments. And finally, after a 5-year hiatus from January football, the team then recorded the best record in the NFL in 2014, moving past Detroit to set up an awesome divisional round clash against Green Bay. And I mean, in this game, it might have been at the point that Cowboys fans may have been starting to believe that the football gods were against them, as this was the infamous Dez Bryant catch game.
Down and 2. Here's one down the sideline. Pass caught by Dez Bryant. They're going to mark him inside the 1.
After review, it has been determined that the receiver did not maintain possession of the football during the process of the catch.
Like, I mean, after Romo's career starting with the botched field goal and ending with the infamous Dez Bryant non-catch is fitting, reflecting the new fortunes of this team. And to make matters even worse, once they finally did get a new quarterback in the building and many people thought that their luck would finally change, it didn't. It just kept getting worse and worse. Dak Prescott in his first season in the NFL led the team to a 13-3 record and an NFC East title, also winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. And many Cowboys fans were asking an honest question: was this finally America's team that we had been waiting for? And the answer is no. Dak Prescott will never be and has never been that quarterback to lead them there. And despite having a 13-3 record, another one-and-done playoff experience quickly followed. This time thanks to an outrageous sideline throw from Aaron Rodgers that managed to march Green Bay up the field with the scores tied inside the last 30 seconds. And as Green Bay kicked the game-winning field goal, the pain continued. And don't get me wrong, there have been good regular seasons for the Cowboys. They've just never been able to convert those good regular seasons into deep playoff runs. Like, I mean, as we all know, and as this clip plays, we all know what happens on this play in 2021 when Dak Prescott ran the ball out with only 14 seconds left against the Niners, and he couldn't clock the ball in time. They then went on to lose to the Niners again in 2022 with this beautiful play call to end the game before getting absolutely humiliated by Green Bay in 2023, with Jordan Love in his first season as a starter completely outplaying Dak Prescott, who was an MVP candidate. Like, I mean, it just has been failure after failure. And I mean, honestly, should we all have really been surprised when Green Bay went up 27-0 before the half? Because I mean, after all of these things happening, can we even really call them America's team anymore? Like, honestly, they're probably just mostly America's biggest disappointment at this point. Like, I mean, the on-field struggles have not been helped by the consistent involvement of owner Jerry Jones. Like, I mean, no owner takes more of an involvement in the team, with Jerry also assigning himself the role of general manager. Over the years, he has contributed to the shambles by frustrating coaches, overruling decisions, and even interfering with the roster and game plans. Like, I mean, even ESPN articles are calling him a fan first and a GM second, allowing emotion to cloud his judgment and cause overreactions. And if you think I'm just making some of this stuff up, I'm gonna give you some examples of just Jones damaging the team with his words. Prior to the 2024 playoffs, he said, "We'll see how each game goes," when asked about Mike McCarthy's future. And as a head coach, that's not something you really want to hear, and not the kind of thing that's going to make McCarthy feel comfortable and focused heading into one of the biggest games of his life. Like, I mean, there are just so many examples of him heaping pressure not only on his players, but his coaches too, and even in this most recent draft, giving away their draft plans completely. In a pre-draft press conference, Jerry Jones, who barely had a running back on the roster, was asked about Texas Longhorns prospect Jonathan Brooks. Completely ignoring the need to have a sturdy poker face during this stage of the draft, Jones said, "In my 30 years, I thought it was the best interview that we have ever had with a player. He's outstanding. We got him high. And I mean, at the time, Dallas was regularly being mocked running backs in the second round, so it should come as no surprise that Carolina decided to trade up in the draft and select Brooks 10 picks before Dallas came even onto the clock. And I mean, technically, we don't really know even if Dallas was going to take Brooks at the end of the day, because there's nothing really that proves that they were going to take him. But the fact that he even just like said that they were so high on him really did confuse a lot of people and give away what they might be doing and force Carolina to trade up. But I think the biggest weakness of just Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, of an organization in general, is how they manage their finances and just all of their contracts and decisions that they make that put them in such poor positions to negotiate these contracts. The Cowboys have picked up a reputation for waiting until the very last minute to do their contracts, rather than locking in their players early at much cheaper prices. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons, the team's 3 best players, are all due a contract next year. And we're gonna come over to Prescott's like outrageous contract that the numbers are being thrown around on. But first we have to look at the other 2, because they might even even be more important than Dak's. Like, I mean, Lamb and Parsons are pillars of the team on each side of the ball. Parsons' window to negotiate has just opened this year, but Lamb was open for negotiation last year. Like, why didn't they even consider trying to negotiate or make a deal get done last year once it did open up? Like, everyone could see that he was a star, but Jones's desire to wait another year now means that they will have to pay Lamb in a hugely inflated market. Like, I mean, Justin Jefferson is getting $35 million a year from Minnesota, and Lamb is going to want a similar number. Like, that is a serious number that they're going to have to pay, because that's what CeeDee Lamb is going to have to get paid. Point blank period. And the crazy part is I don't even know if they're going to be able to get to that number if they still have to negotiate with Parsons and Prescott too, which begs the question, and honestly the answer is no, but can they afford to let Lamb go? And the easy answer I'd say is no, because he has been sensational through the first 4 years of his career, improving greatly from season to season, earning an All-Pro nod and 3 Pro Bowls along the way. He is a clear-cut superstar, game-changing receiver that doesn't grow on trees, and removing him from the offense could put an end to any hopes of Super Bowls anytime soon, especially given the lack of any other exciting talent on that offensive unit. And one of the reasons that this is just such a tricky situation for Dallas as an organization is because Jerry Jones completely screwed over this team with the contract that they gave Dak, and if they're going to re-sign him, they're going to get even screwed more. Now in his final year, Prescott is costing $55 million against the cap, also benefiting from a no trade and no tag clause, giving him all the power in any negotiations. And now let's say they can't get a deal sorted. Prescott will walk as a free agent after this upcoming season, and if they can get a new deal sorted, they can free up cap space this year and secure his services into the future. But do they really want to do that? Like, my case for not re-signing him is that Prescott's playoff record is 2 wins to 5 losses. The most recent playoff appearance was a complete collapse of epic proportions, falling to a 27-point deficit by halftime in their own building. Like, I mean, just looking at these clips, and even if you just remember it, Dak was a complete liability, missing his receivers and throwing 2 unforgivable interceptions. Like, garbage time allowed him to salvage a respectable box score, but nothing could ever cover up the stench of another rotten playoff collapse. And aside from that game, Prescott has only thrown multiple touchdowns in 2 other playoff games. Simply put, that is just terrible. And even in the regular season, he struggled against good opponents. And yes, he was second in MVP voting, but a 0 touchdown, 1 interception game against San Francisco and a 1 touchdown, 3 interception game against Buffalo continues the trend of him coming up empty in very important games. And as a result, can the Cowboys actually afford or even want to justify giving him another huge contract? Because if not, they may simply have to leave the contract as it is, accept the huge cost of it, and hope they can somehow muster up a Super Bowl win with less cash available. And in another incredibly helpful interview of Jerry Jones's, he recently said that the Cowboys were all in this year in 2024. And honestly, I'm not sure if that's really true with the moves that they've made so far. They've allowed not only Tyron Smith and another offensive lineman to walk, but along with Michael Gallup and running back Tony Pollard, they've all been shown the door. But good thing they've replaced him with a declining Ezekiel Elliott. Like, it's safe to say the giant contract for Prescott has then prevented the team from making any notable signings, leaving this team worse off than last year. And I mean, the fact of the matter is that America's team has come up more and more of a circus under the stewardship of Jerry Jones. And with each passing year, the weight of the America's team nickname grows heavier. There is no doubt that this team no longer deserves the lofty title. Between Jerry Jones's constant meddling off the field and the long list of embarrassing gaffes on the field, Dallas now carries a sense of inevitability with them. Not the inevitability that they will win like they did in the 90s, but an inevitability that they will find a way to lose in the playoffs. This once great franchise is resigning themselves to one of the most mediocre teams in the NFL, and I for one am truly enjoying it because I do not think they are that good. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below. How good are the Cowboys going to be this year? Are they going to put up another like 13-4 record, or are they just going to completely go back to their ways of going 9-8 and somehow winning the NFC East? I truly don't know. Honestly, for me, I think the Eagles are going to win that division, and it's going to just be by a landslide. I think a lot of people are sleeping on the Eagles out, actually. And I do honestly think that they're an underrated team right now, which we're going to have a video on that this week too. So make sure you guys look out for that. But as always, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. And as always, I will catch you guys in the next one.